All right, welcome to the interview show. This is Scott Wood, your host. Today I'm sitting down with Lowell from the Great Bloomers. Hi, Lowell. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your day?
My day. I woke up in a hotel room, and then I scrambled to get my stuff together.
And then someone knocked at the door.
And then someone knocked on the door. We can start this up again. Hello?
Sorry guys, I'm just going to change your set times here.
Oh, no problem. Hello, I'm Lowell Sostomi from Great Bloomers, and you are listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
She was a child, dumb and mild, unfamiliar still, with love's highs and lows. She felt ashamed of who she became. Every piece of herself that she lost along the way. Oh. Still waiting for something more. A glimpse of a chapel floor through her veil. The dazzle of her eyes dreamt. Just sparks in the night, too dim to behold. To be held. She shrunk as she said, I want what you've had. I told her, my dear, what I fear, learning how to lose was love's only souvenir. And I came here with empty hands, right now reduced to sand and stone, born again cynic. Speaking of nothing sacred at all. Oh, not at all. Time fell into a silent spell, and all that we shared was a fond farewell. She left as she came, still waiting for something more. A glimpse of a chapel floor through a veil. The dazzle of her eyes dreamt. Just sparks in the night, too dim to behold. Oh, to be held. Oh, to be held. Oh, to be held.
Hello, I'm Lowell from Great... Oh, that sounded bad. I'm going to try again. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Hello, I'm Lowell from Great Bloomers. You're listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
All right, you're listening to the interview show. This is Scott Wood, your host. You just heard the single Something More by Great Bloomers. I've got Lowell from the band with me right now. I would love to hear a little bit about that track.
We decided to go with Something More. It's going to be the first song on our record.
What would that record be called?
record's going to be called Distant Fires. That was sort of that song sort of marked a sort of new direction for us. It was one of the first ones that we put together that really felt different, and so it has a really special place in my heart personally.
All right, Great Bloomers. Where did that name come from?
It's no more than a pun on late bloomers.
And so what made you decide, hey, I'm going to go by that name?
Well, as much as I would like to say that it was just that easy for me, we deliberated for a long time about what band name we were going to have. It's a long process, and it's hard to think of a band name. But we thought that one was... All of our favorite band names are usually 2 words and semi-lighthearted and vague and that sort of thing. So you just got to pick something and go with it at some point.
I'm not dissing Great Bloomers at all. I like the name, but what was the runner-up?
The runner-up? Crucial Taunt. Just joking. I don't know. I can't remember.
If that really was the runner-up, great choice with Great Bloomers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, is that your steam whistle?
There are a lot of steam whistles kicking around backstage tonight.
There are a lot of steam whistles. And that's beer, by the way.
That is beer.
All right. Welcome to the interview show. This is Scott Wood, your host. Today we are sitting backstage at the Commodore Ballroom with Lowell from the Great Bloomers. How's it going, dude?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing equally great. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your day?
Well, I woke up in a hotel room this morning, scrambled to get a cup of coffee, just made it in time to get the ferry from Vancouver Island back to the city, and then got to the Commodore about 4 hours early, and I didn't really realize how early we would be, but yeah, that's been my day pretty much so far, just hanging out.
So come on, you're in the heart of downtown Vancouver. How did you waste those 4 hours?
Actually, I'm lying. I didn't waste those hours. I already spent like $300, more than $300. So I did some shopping, and I kicked around and ate a delicious burrito as well.
Come on, give us 2 items you spent the $300 on.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I might have got a fancy new shirt, and I also bought a piece of musical gear that might be boring, but it's a power supply. I run a lot of guitar pedals on stage, so...
You're in a band. Can anything for a band be boring?
How does a 12-hour van ride sound to you? How about 26 hours the other day?
Sure, but you get to listen to music, spend time with your friends who you're also in a band with.
That's true. Spend a lot of time with the guys. 26 hours, 5 guys in a very small space. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes not fun, but, you know. Boring? I guess it's not boring too often.
Can you give me a high and a low of your recent driving trips?
Recent driving trips. A high for me recently was Calgary to Nelson. Got to see the Frank slide. That was really interesting. And a low, I hate to say it, but driving through the prairies is always, it can get a little monotonous. Sorry, the prairies. Didn't mean to offend you.
Those are pretty vague answers, but I was going for stuff like, you know, you're locked in a van with dudes for 26 hours, you said?
Oh, yeah.
That can get a bit strange.
That can get strange. That was a low. We just finished our East Coast tour with Yukon Blonde and didn't even see a flake of snow the entire time we were there, and we decided to leave Halifax at midnight and just drive through the night so we could be back at a reasonable hour the next day. So out of nowhere comes the nastiest snowstorm that we've ever driven in. We drove for about an hour and a half at about maybe 30 kilometers an hour before we just had to pull over on the side of the highway, and we just decided to sleep in the van. So we slept for about 4 hours, and when we woke up, the roads were pretty much 5 times as bad as before. And what should have taken about 17 hours to drive home took 26 hours. So that was a low, a very, very low.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Touring Canada can often be kind of a treacherous journey, so I was hoping you could tell me a death-defying story, something that happened to you while on the road in Canada.
Once, we were driving across Saskatchewan in the winter, and it was unbelievably foggy. You could only see maybe 50 meters, maybe 100 meters in front of you. And on the side of the as we were driving, our transmission blew out. So we had to pull over. We had to call a tow truck. So a tow truck came, and there's a tow truck towing our van, towing our trailer. And we're going back into Saskatchewan on the highway when a woman tries passing a transport truck, an 18-wheeler. She did not have enough time nor enough visibility. So essentially what happened was the tow truck driver had to pull off the road, and she smashed into our trailer. And so that totaled our trailer, and we didn't even have seatbelts on or anything. So it happened really quickly, and it was very, very shocking. And we realized we're on the side of a highway stuck in the snow. So we ran out and saw that our trailer had been smashed up, and the van was looking pretty smashed up. And unfortunately, out of the van walks a 20-year-old pregnant girl, very pregnant. And luckily, she was okay. But a very risky move on her part. Everyone was okay, and Wood and Sky was driving by at the time, luckily, and they picked me up, and I went to Calgary with them and I played a solo show. And unfortunately, the Bloomers had to stick behind and fix the van up. So that was pretty wild. And then there's footage of a tow truck towing our tow truck, towing our van, towing a trailer. It's a pretty serious convoy that's going on there. Hello, I'm Lowell from Grape... Oh, that sounded bad. I'm going to try again. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Hello, I'm Lowell from Grape Bloomers. You're listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
Perfect. How about you do another one? Hit it.
Sure.
Let's see that high energy.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lowell Sostomi from Grape Bloomers, and you are listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
The city yawns and stretches, and songs to sing, with the voice of an elder, and the young one slept. Heavy eyes that see clear but can still dream. This feeling irks me, but it's gone so quickly.
I'm Lowell Sostomi from Great Bloomers, and you are listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
Hi, my name's Scott Wood. You're listening to The Interview Show. We just heard The Young Ones Slept, which is off the Great Bloomers' first album, Speak of Trouble. I've got Lowell from the band with me. I would love it if you could talk a little bit about that track.
I think that track stands out as one of my favorites from our old record, and yeah, it's a fun track. We made a music video for that last year where we all just did a day in the life, riding our bikes to Toronto Island and having a fire and doing all the things that we do during the summer, and yeah, it's kind of a nostalgic little song for me.
Cool. Now, since that song was written, everybody in the band is now different. So I was hoping you could sort of compare and contrast this track from your first record with the stuff we're going to hear later from your new record.
I would say if I was going to represent our new record, and with something off the old record, I would use this track, sort of the vibe and that sort of thing, sort of veering away from the sort of country influence that a lot of the tracks on the record has. So I would say this record is a good indicator of sort of the path we've taken with our new stuff.
Your first record was Speak of Trouble in 2009,
yeah.
And you're putting out a new record sometime in 2012. You are the only mainstay of the group, so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that.
Well,
from 2009 to 2012, everybody else in the group has changed.
That's correct.
Except Lowell.
Yeah, that's right. Even with the first record, I wrote all the songs for it. So when it came time to start replacing people, it was difficult, but it was doable. So luckily for me, I was in a position where I was able to do so. It was a long process, and it took me a long time to find the right people, but I couldn't be happier. Like the lineup we have now, most of us have been playing together since 2009. So it happened really quickly. Once we started touring, the band sort of realized, oh, this is more serious maybe than we thought it was going to be. So I had to find serious musicians, and now based on a lot of personal growth and a lot of obviously a serious lineup change, the new record sounds extremely different. It's called Distant Fires, and it's a pretty serious departure from our last record. It's a lot heavier in terms of sound and sonically, and also lyrics and that sort of thing. So the last record was sort of breezy and sunny sounding. This one's kind of a darker counterpart to that.
Cool. We're going to get to the music in a second. First, I've got to ask, when you're the boss of your own company, like Great Bloomers, we'll characterize you that way.
Sure.
You're interviewing for people. What's the test? Like, what's the test? And you're like, okay, I'm going to hire you. Gut feeling. With any player that I've played with, I knew instantly whether or not I wanted to play with them. And the interviewing process can be tricky because I know so quickly personally, just based on, I don't know, a feeling. And within 10 seconds, if you already kind of decided that it's not going to work out, it's hard to sort of feign interest for an hour or whatever. But luckily, even the people that tried out were all really good. It's just a matter of finding the right person. I once interviewed a band called Say Hi, and his test for saying people were in the band is he would take them out on a night on the town with him, and if they didn't completely get out of control on alcohol, they were in. That was the final test. Does Great Bloomers have something like that?
If they didn't get out of control?
Right, because you see, if they didn't completely get obliterated, then he knew that he could take them on the road and they'd be a good band member.
I'm always just trying my hardest to get everyone in my band really drunk. So I don't know. Maybe my test would be the opposite of that.
Fair enough. All right. I can understand why everybody's so happy to be in your band.
Oh yeah, we like to have a good time.
Cool. All right. I was reading a little bit about you guys, and I read an interview you did with the AV Club, and they said that you hated being called or being put in the Canadiana genre. So I was hoping you could talk a bit about that.
I just feel it's a silly label. It's a weird little pigeonhole, especially considering our music. I mean,
especially now, I don't understand what it's really supposed to mean aside from just being Canadian. It's not as if we're referencing, Canadian cities all the time or singing songs about the Maple Leafs or anything. I think people confuse sincerity for Canadiana. I'm not sure exactly. It's just always been something that confused me, and I don't know. It always kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit.
Fair enough. So if not Canadiana, then what?
How about just music? It is what it is. I'm not even a big fan of genres and subgenres and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing more difficult than answering the question, what do you guys sound like? It's like, well, listen to us, I guess. I mean, every musician and everyone in a band struggles with this, I think, and it is frustrating sometimes,
Fair enough. So how about we settle on rootsy indie rock?
That works for me. Sure. Let's go there with it.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so you guys have just signed or recently signed to Dine Alone Records, and they have Tokyo Police Club and they have City and Color. So those are like pretty mainstream indie acts.
Yeah. I think Dine Alone has a good mixture of very mainstream stuff and just and off the beaten path, sort of really good music. I think Dine Alone, and they just, I mean, Marilyn Manson now, they just signed him. I think Dine Alone's a perfect label for us because they refuse to be pigeonholed, and they want to just work with the people they want to work with. And I think it's a matter of quality and not streamlining genre. So I think that's one of the main things I love about that label.
Cool. So when you guys, we've got. Hi everyone.
We got a little Brendan from Library Voices and some John from Yukon Blonde.
Nice. So it sounds like you guys are pretty tight on this tour.
We're lovers, all of us. We're brothers and sisters, and we get along really well, and we all have a great time together.
Should that scare me? Since when I met you, I walked into a room of 8 guys.
That is par for the course, my friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Lowell, thank you very much for your time tonight. I would love it if you could pick one track off your catalog and talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to bring up that music as you talk.
Well, okay. I guess I would like to start, if you wouldn't mind playing the song Sunday Clothes. That song's pretty near and dear to me. It's written about a trip to Vancouver that I took, where I got some pretty devastating surgery, and just sort of dealing with that. So it's a little heavy, but sorry, is that too heavy? Is that too real?
What was the devastating surgery?
Well, I guess we could get into that a little bit. I mean, essentially, it was just getting my wisdom teeth out, but it was like one of the most complicated versions of that possible, and it really knocked me on my ass, and it kind of made me realize how lucky I am to have my health, and to go from sort of being not even in pain to being unable to even function or think or move or anything for over a week, just strung out on painkillers and that sort of thing. And I had to get a bone transplant and parts of my jaw cut out, and my jawbone. It was pretty heavy. I don't want to gross anyone out, but yeah, I learned a lot about how lucky we are to have our health and that sort of thing.
See, I love hearing stories about that. I love hearing stories like that about songs, because now I'm like, wow, that's about him getting his wisdom teeth removed. What made him write a song about that?
Well, it was more so just a feeling of just being sort of so helpless and feeling like such a dim flame. Usually I have so much energy, and I'm always up for anything, and then just going from that to just being an entirely different person altogether is pretty eye-opening for me.
All right, so we're going to hear Sunday Clothes by Great Bloomers. Thanks, Lowell.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Hello, I'm Lowell from Great... Oh, that sounded bad. I'm going to try again. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Hello, I'm Lowell from Great Bloomers. You're listening to The Interview Show with Scott Wood.
Perfect. How about you do another one? Hit it.
Sure.
Let's see that high energy.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lowell Sostomi from Great Bloomers, and you are listening to the interview show with Scott Wood.
Collect what's left of your face. You'll shed your skin when you leave this place. And on your way, tell everyone that everything is okay. And for so long, the way has anchored my mind and kept me up at night, just dreading the one day I had. I'd be stripped of my will, my mind rise, but my body is still far away from who I once was, wondering who I'd be if even now I'm finding out that in blows a gust of fate and suddenly I'm someone else. Perhaps a child you once knew, or a stranger passing through. All the plans I made have been gently laid to rest right next to you. So pick me up off the floor in your Sunday clothes. You swore that you'd care for me until I could see myself out the front door. A gust of fate and suddenly I'm someone else.